Our journey begins in the rugged hills of Myanmar, where a group known as the Kuki National Army emerged in the late 20th century. Amidst the verdant landscapes of Burma, a new dawn was on the horizon. This was the genesis of the Kuki National Army, or KNA, a force born out of a deep-rooted desire for autonomy and preservation of the Kuki people's unique cultural heritage. The KNA was not a creation out of thin air. It was the culmination of years of struggle, resistance, and an unyielding determination to protect their ancestral lands from the encroachments of external powers. The Kuki people, fiercely independent and proud of their rich cultural heritage, had been resisting colonization for centuries. Their lands, their traditions, their very identity were under constant threat. The KNA emerged as an embodiment of these struggles, a beacon of hope in the face of adversity. Their initial objectives were clear and uncompromising: protect the Kuki lands, preserve their cultural heritage, and strive for autonomy. But the formation of the KNA did not occur in a vacuum. It was a period of immense political upheaval in Burma. The country was in the throes of a military junta, a regime known for its brutal suppression of dissent and relentless pursuit of control. Despite the daunting political climate, the Kuki people remained resolute. The formation of the KNA was a testament to their indomitable spirit. But it was also a clear signal to the junta and the world at large. The Kuki people would not be passive spectators in the face of oppression. This was the genesis of the Kuki National Army, a force that would soon find itself in direct confrontation with one of the most powerful military regimes in the world. It was a group of ordinary people, fueled by an extraordinary resolve, ready to fight for their rights, their lands, and their future. As the political climate in Burma grew increasingly volatile, the Kuki National Army found itself on a collision course with the Myanmar Junta Army. The simmering tensions between the Kuki National Army and the Myanmar Junta Army would soon boil over into outright conflict. In the early stages of the war, the Kuki National Army, or KNA, was faced with the daunting task of confronting a well-equipped Myanmar Junta army. Despite their limited resources and manpower, the KNA strategized effectively, making use of their knowledge of the terrain and guerrilla warfare tactics to counter the junta's conventional military might. The KNA's actions were not merely a response to the junta's offensive, but were also deeply rooted in their desire to protect their people and lands. The Kuki people, whose history and culture are intrinsically tied to their ancestral lands in Burma, were at risk of displacement and cultural erosion. The KNA was not just fighting a war, they were defending their way of life. Major confrontations between the two armies were marked by courage and resilience, especially on the part of the KNA. The Battle of the Tangjing Range, for instance, stands out as a testament to their bravery. The KNA, vastly outnumbered, held their ground against the junta forces, inflicting significant damage and slowing their advance. While the KNA fought valiantly on the battlefield, the war took a toll on the Kuki people. Villages were razed, families were separated, and the once tranquil lands of the Kuki were transformed into war zones. Yet, amidst the chaos and destruction, the spirit of the Kuki people remained unbroken. Their resilience mirrored that of the KNA, further fueling the army's resolve to continue the fight. The war was not just a series of battles. It was a struggle for identity, culture, and survival. The Kuki National Army stood as a beacon of hope amidst the darkness, a symbol of resistance against an oppressive regime. Their courage and determination were a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Kuki people. The Kuki National Army fought valiantly, but the war was far from over. The war between the Kuki National Army and the Myanmar Junta Army reached new heights, with both sides employing increasingly desperate measures. This was a time of intense struggle and determination, with every day bringing new challenges and trials. The Kuki National Army, driven by their unwavering desire to protect their people and their land, found themselves in an uphill battle against the well-armed and disciplined Myanmar Junta Army. Some of the most significant battles took place during this period, each one more fierce than the last. The Kuki National Army, though outnumbered, displayed a level of courage and resilience that was truly inspiring. Meanwhile, the Myanmar Junta Army, unwilling to back down, continued their offensive. Their tactics were ruthless, often resorting to intimidation and violence. They sought to crush the spirit of the Kuki people, but instead, they only strengthened their resolve. The Kuki people stood steadfastly behind their army. their faith unshaken even in the face of such adversity. The impact of the war was far-reaching. The Kuki people, caught in the crossfire, suffered greatly. Their lands were ravaged, their homes destroyed, and their lives disrupted. Yet, they refused to be broken. Their spirit, much like the land they called home, was resilient and enduring. Amidst the escalating violence, the international community began to take notice. Several international agencies, alarmed by the worsening situation, attempted to intervene. They sought to mediate, to bring about a peaceful resolution. However, their efforts were met with resistance from both sides. The war was far from over. And through it all, the Kuki National Army stood firm. They fought with a ferocity that was born out of love for their people and their land. They fought not for personal gain, but for the preservation of their culture and their way of life. They fought because they had something worth fighting for. Despite the escalating violence, the Kuki National Army remained resolute in their fight for their people and their land. This was a war of attrition, a war of endurance, but most importantly, this was a war of the heart. And in the heart of the Kuki National Army, the flame of resistance burned brighter than ever. The war between the Kuki National Army and the Myanmar Junta Army left a lasting impact on the Kuki people and their lands. The echoes of the war, while silent, still reverberate through the hills and valleys of the Kuki homeland. The aftermath was a time of reckoning, a time to count the cost of a conflict that had shaken the very core of a community. The physical devastation was apparent in the scarred landscape, the abandoned homes, and the once fertile lands now barren. The toll on the Kuki people was even more profound. Lives were lost, families were torn apart, and a generation of Kuki children grew up knowing only the sounds of gunfire and the fear of violence. The trauma of the war was etched in their memories and in their hearts, a painful legacy that they would carry with them for the rest of their lives. But the aftermath of the war also brought about significant political changes. The Kuki National Army, born out of a need to protect their people and their lands, had become a symbol of resistance against the Myanmar Junta Army. Their struggle had drawn international attention to the plight of the Kuki people, and their resilience had won them both admiration and support. Yet the challenges faced by the Kuki people did not end with the cessation of the war. The struggle for their rights continues, as does their fight for recognition and autonomy. The war may have ended, but the fight for justice, for the right to live in peace on their ancestral lands, is far from over. The Kuki National Army's struggle against the Myanmar Junta Army, a struggle that was as much about preserving their culture and identity as it was about protecting their lands, remains a testament to their resilience and determination. They stood and continue to stand against all odds, a beacon of hope for their people. The Kuki National Army's struggle against the Myanmar Junta Army remains a testament to their resilience and determination to protect their people and their lands. The Kuki National Army's fight against the Myanmar Junta Army serves as a powerful reminder of the struggle for sovereignty and the rights of indigenous peoples. This epic saga of resistance began with the formation of the Kuki National Army, a group forged in the fire of a desire for self-determination and the preservation of their cultural heritage. The Kukas, indigenous to the hills of Burma, found their lands and lives under threat from the Myanmar Junta Army. The Kuki National Army rose from these circumstances, a beacon of hope and resistance. Their war was not just for land, but for the preservation of their identity, their culture, and their right to self-governance. The war was fierce, and the Kuki National Army fought with bravery and tenacity. They faced a formidable enemy, but their commitment to their cause never wavered. Despite the overwhelming odds and the immense sacrifices, they stood their ground, a testament to their indomitable spirit. The war eventually ended, but the struggle for the Kukis did not. The aftermath was a time of rebuilding and healing, of picking up the pieces and moving forward. The Kukis, though bruised, were not broken. They continued to fight for their rights, their lands, and their people. The story of the Kuki National Army is not just a tale of war and resistance. It's a story that speaks to struggles happening across the world, where indigenous peoples are fighting for their rights, their lands, and their cultures. It's a story that echoes the struggles of the past and resonates in the struggles of the present. The Kuki National Army, through their struggle against the Myanmar Junta army, have become a symbol of resistance, resilience, and the enduring spirit of the Kuki people. Their story is a testament to the strength of indigenous peoples when they rise in defense of their rights and their lands. The story of the Kuki National Army continues to resonate today, a symbol of resistance, resilience, and the enduring spirit of the Kuki people.